Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to ANDAcademy's Kaleidoscope Masterclass today. I am Shubhangi and I'm part of the branding and communications team here at And I thank you all for joining us today. Um, so before we dive right into the presentation, I would like to take a moment to talk a little bit about and for those of you who know about and for those of you who do not. So Ann Academy is actually the brainchild of Dr. Jatin Chadda, who's the founder and CEO of Indian Institute of Art and Design. So, an academy actually comes from the design pedigree of imparting design education for over a decade, that is IIAD, and is a one of a kind online upskilling school. Um, we offer professional short courses in the domains of graphic design, interior design, and UI UX design. Most of these courses are part-time, apart from one course that is full-time in graphic design, and these are uh, since these are professional short courses, these are designed for people who are either working professionals or are enrolled in programs that are full-time. So we do sort of optimize or for your convenience, that is that classes happen in evening in an online format, but we do not compromise on any of the quality things that you sort of find in an design studio, in a design school. So everything that happens in a design school, in a design studio, in person in a classroom, we at Anne are able to offer that experience in an online sort of mode of learning. um, we like to call it that we give you the or bring you the convenience of we bring you the convenience of online with the effectiveness of offline. Um, as I mentioned, and actually comes from the design pedigree of IIAD. All of our courses are designed by people that are working in the industry, and not only designed but also delivered by people that are design practitioners and not just academicians. So we ensure that you get like very relevant, up to date knowledge. Um, as I mentioned earlier, all of our classes are in a live and interactive manner or mode of learning, as opposed to this webinar where somebody will sort of speak and then you are in a webinar passive learning mode. Um, our classes are not like that. We also focus more on design process or design principles over just design tools. So you do get to learn tools, say for example, Photoshop or Figma or AutoCAD, etc., for every relevant discipline. But we also teach you how to design on these tools, what to design on these tools. So we actually teach you how to think like a designer. So our learning goes beyond just learning tools and just progresses into how to focus on design process and design fundamental. As I mentioned earlier, our curriculum is developed by industry practitioners, and in this curriculum, there are projects that are woven throughout. And these are projects that borrow from real world challenges. So when you hit the ground running and you enter the design industry, these are the sort of challenge that you will get or you will face. Um, so these briefs for these projects actually borrow from those challenges. These projects also sort of culminate into a market ready portfolio. So when you graduate, you can just like hit the ground running. We also have so much confidence in the kind of quality education that we provide, job guarantee on a few of our courses. Um, and at and our mission is to make design education accessible, affordable, and industry relevant. Um, we started this journey with and in 2022, so it's over 3 years that we've been doing this. We have had a community of 1,200 plus learners, and we've transformed 500 plus careers. We have a 200 we have 200 plus hiring partners, and we rated 4.6 on Google. So if any of you are wanting to enroll in our courses, you can just like check us out on Google and then read through those reviews. um so that was about and talking about this session, that is Kaleidoscope. So Kaleidoscope was actually conceptualized as a property, or as a sort of series of masterclasses in which we invite lots of design maestros, and every design maestro is capable of um, bringing myriad perspectives of design. Today, we have with us Sanjana Choudhary. She's the Associate Visual Head at Nicobar. I would like to introduce Sanjana. Sanjana is a multidisciplinary designer with over 9 years of experience in building impactful brand strategies and crafting compelling visual narratives. She has collaborated with diverse organizations to shape identities that resonate and communicate with clarity and creativity. Passionate about design's power to influence perception and behavior, Sanjana brings a holistic approach to design project to every project, balancing strategic thinking with a strong aesthetic sensibility. With that, let's start our conversation with Sanjana. Sanjana, let's start with, how did design happen? Why did you move into the field of design?
I think in class 9 and 12 is when I chose fine arts as a subject, and I really got to deep dive into, still life, nature study, applied arts in general. And that's where the curiosity really began. And yeah, that's where interest in design actually sparked.
Did you also have like a particular moment then when you sort of decided that, you know what, this is something that I want to explore? Maybe one fine art class or one sort of particular project where it was more tactile, or something that like really piqued your curiosity in that manner?
Yeah, there was a project that we had to do for our class 12 board exam. So, in fact, I'd love to be able to share my screen and show it.
Sure,
Uh,
please go ahead.
so, this was actually one of my graduating projects from school. And just give me a second so I can share my screen. Sorry, I think that seems to be. For some reason, I'm not being able to share it. I'll come back to it. But anyway, there was one particular project that really sparked, where I realized this is it, this is what I want to do. It was my graduating project in school. And we had actually that summer traveled with my family and gone to a lot of museums. And I had to build an installation as my final project. And the installation was actually about symbolizing people's moods and how it worked. So it was this 3D installation with almost over 80, 90 square boxes in a 3D format. And when you moved from one end to another end, they would completely change color. And it took a lot of effort and patience, almost over 6 months, kind of making that project and creating it. But the final outcome, once seeing it, the satisfaction one got from it, I think that's when I realized that's where I want to be and that's what I want to do with my life.
Hmm. So you also started your journey with fashion as your first design discipline. So
Yeah.
what drew you to fashion more than other design disciplines?
I think it was my natural entry point because even as a child, even while growing up, I had a very strong instinct to put things together, looks together, whether it was styling, whether it was playing with textures. I didn't obviously know technical terms back then, but I was definitely very clear in the vision I had or the eye, an eye for detail that I had. I think initially what drew me to it was that it looked extremely glamorous. One also realized the fact that there was a lot of storytelling in fashion. So how a look can express a mood, a personality, a cultural moment. I think that the whole aspect of that really drew me in. Also, I think yeah, it just felt larger than life. It was exciting. And initially, that was the thought behind it until I actually started studying fashion. And I realized it's not all about that, it's extremely complex and layered. And yeah, it involved a lot of understanding of construction, culture, history. I think that's what kept me hooked eventually to like pursue it and go forward, move forward.
Right. And you did go to fashion school then, and then you like sort of moved into that direction. So what were some of your learnings that you had when you sort of went into fashion school for your education?
I think one of the most important part of that was the importance of process. Actually, like it's not just that you reach, you reach a design, you make it, and you create it, and it's done. It's actually the process, the research, the concept development, the initial idea, sketching it, draping it, trying out various things, creating patterns for it. All of that led to an eventuality. I think it trained me to think very deeply and critically about every detail that you're putting in. I also learned how to balance functionality and creativity, which is a big part of design. Actually, if you make a design and you can't sell it or it's not functional, there's no purpose of that design. Design is actually problem solving for the world. So I think that kind of laid the foundation for me. And yeah, that's what I really learned at my time at Pearl while studying fashion.
Right. And when you sort of when did the transition sort of happen for you? So you went from fashion and like then fashion education to fashion to working in fashion in other sort of broader roles that were not very fashion specific. How did that transition sort of happen? What were the opportunities like? What sort of influenced that transition also?
So initially, once when I graduated, I'd worked a lot during my time at Pearl. I ensured to, kind of take every opportunity to do an internship and learn more. I think it was my time at Ravindra Rathore, which was, I think, my second or third job out of college. And I'd spent a good 2.5 years there. I saw the industry changing a lot. So it wasn't really about just you going in there working with a designer and kind of building that on. Now designers were actually, it wasn't, the whole idea wasn't that you bring fabric, you create a design, put some embroidery on it. It wasn't that anymore. It was actually designing the prints that went in from scratch, which people weren't doing, with the fashion industry wasn't really doing at a very initial stage. And that was like a little there was a part where a lot of things were changing. It wasn't, the time wasn't just about these 5 or 6 designers in the industry anymore. A lot of smaller, younger designers were coming in doing this. And one realized that one had to pivot also. Another thing that kind of pushed me was when I was in college, I was always intrigued. I had a lot of friends in communication design, and I would see their work, and I'm like, even I want to do that, because ours was more practical versus theirs was all software skill oriented. And I felt that there was a gap. There was something that I wanted to bridge, and the time required me to pivot. And it almost took me a good 2 years to make that shift mentally and understand that I wanted to do that and pivot to and kind of learn about communication design. And I think that's where it kind of started. And before I actually went into studying that full time, just to ensure that that I'm not throwing away a career, or like kind of in between, you've started your career, you've had a good 2 3 years on you, 4 years on you, you're doing well. um so I didn't want to kind of like let that go, and that momentum go either. So I kind of did these classes for 6 months over the weekends at Sri Aurobindo in New Delhi, which taught you the basics of graphic design, really. And it was foundational design essentially. They also didn't teach you softwares, but it taught you a lot about communication design and graphic design, which was extremely helpful. It kind of made me realize there is a potential there. There can be an overlap with the way the industry trends were changing, that it could be great in the future. I was still wary about it, but it happened like that.
And what kind of roles were you taking on as a young, fresh graduate? What kind of roles were you looking at? You know what, this is something that I want to do. This is something that, I can leave it, that I don't want to do this. What kind of roles were you looking for?
I think initially I wasn't really looking for a role. I was only looking to learn. Like the first couple of years, like I mentioned earlier, also during my college time as well, I took on as many internships as possible. I took on as many opportunities as I got as possible because those are your foundation years. Honestly speaking, a classroom teaches you a lot, but what you learn in the industry in any field is far more. Hands on, and like you learn a lot of smaller things. And I think in the first couple of years I just wasn't looking for a role, I was just looking to learn. And that held me in good stead. Like I moved from at Mani to Mani. I learned a lot about embroideries, a lot about prints, a lot about how to translate prints ideas from paper to garments, in terms of prints. Whereas when I was at Raghavendra Rathore, I learned all about structure and putting things together and styling. Versus Shivan and Naresh was all about swimwear. So very diverse understandings and learnings and experiences, but it just taught you a lot. Like your knowledge bank was massive. I think only towards the end I started kind of looking at, okay, I've done 3 years here now. I want a little bit of a promotion or a jump, like, those kind of things kind of kicked in. But earlier on, it was just about learning and seizing the opportunity.
Did you ever in your journey also considering that you're working for different sort of users, or like you're creating stuff for different users or audiences? Did that thought ever cross, or was it like retrospectively that like saw something in your journey?
Um, I mean, I think it was an amalgamation of both. Of course, you learn a lot. From my time at Raghavendra Rathore, what I did actually was deal with a lot of H&I clients, doing all their bespoke wardrobes end to end, being their entire refresh of their closets or Indian wear or weddings. That kind of translated into actually doing. Sorry about that. Actually doing events eventually with them. But that also taught you it wasn't just about, kind of just designing for the brand or just designing according to a client. It was doing both things and adding value of what you bring to the table. So it was very fine balance of all three things. And I think that experiences and your work and what you aesthetically enjoy and build, that also takes time to build, and that the amalgamation of all of it is what eventually came out.
Right. So we sort of have walked into my next question, which is like, when did you start developing your own style or your own approach in this sort of process that you took on?
um I think it took a long time to develop a style. The one thing I realized over a period of time, and going back to it, your style keeps evolving over the years. Your aesthetic keeps evolving over the years. uh, Inherently I am drawn towards cleaner design languages, bold, expressive. But recently now I love doing maximalistic stuff, aesthetically. So it's a very vast difference from where I started to where I am now. But if you see like my work or my portfolio, there'll be a lot of that initial part of it with smaller additions to things. Even working with different brands, when you actually work with them, they also define a certain aesthetic very strongly. So it's a mix and match. There wasn't a particular time where I started developing it. It's been over a period of time it's come in. I think also just observing a lot, kind of taking in a lot of things, learning from different people. That really helps you build your style and your approach. Not mimicking them, but actually just taking it all in. And that's how mine has developed over many years.
Right. So you went from studying in fashion to working in the fashion industry, then studying graphic design for a bit, and then you sort of took on like roles as a graphic designer, or you sort of moved into the graphic design chapter, so to say, of your career.
Yeah.
So tell us about your first proper graphic design role. What was that like? How did that happen?
My first role was with a boutique agency called Uno Muno, and that was an incredible phase of learning and growth. I almost felt like, even though I came from a design background, I was stepping into something where I was a fresher. I didn't know much. Like, I just studied this and come. But the whole idea was, I actually found a great mentor in my co-founder. She was also someone who was a self-taught designer and really was generous with her knowledge. Incredibly, she really held my hand for the first 6 8 months. Really taught me a lot of things, and that, I think, having really great mentors also in the fashion time as well as this period of my life really shaped my design aesthetic and my design sensibilities. Um, I also, I mean, that phase where I worked with them for almost 3.5, 4 years, it was a learning opportunity, not just in graphic design, but holistically, in the sense that it was a 5 member team with the co-founders. So everything we did, whether it was a brief that came in from a client, to conceptualizing, ideating, kind of designing things, then saying, okay, this doesn't work, going back to the drawing board. All of it happened with everyone. There weren't like, okay, you will only do this or you will only do this. So I was very fortunate enough to be in that kind of environment, which shaped you very holistically. So yeah, and it didn't just teach me the design aspect of it, but also how to build a business, how to deal with clients, how to understand what a client wants, versus how to convince a client that, okay, this is better for you, showing them what they like, but showing them also that, hey, listen, this is another option. The research that went behind it. It's not just building a brand, but who are the competitors in the market? What are they doing right versus what you are going to do? What kind of brand do you want it to become like? So these a lot of these things really shaped the journey, and it was a very exciting time, stressful time. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of long hours, but it was incredibly rewarding. Now when I look back at that time, I learned a lot from branding, packaging, you know be it doing art direction, campaign shoots, the whole works, end to end. So yeah, I got to work with a lot of, in fact, I got to go back to the fashion industry, got to work with fashion brands, building brands for them on the other side of things. So actually that fashion knowledge kind of helped in a certain way to understand the brand better and what they wanted. FMCG products, sorry, companies, luxury companies, and brands. So yeah, it was extremely exciting and rewarding.
Do you want to talk about any particular projects or any like specific pieces from your portfolio from that time?
Yeah, I'd actually love to take you guys through a couple of my works if that's okay. Just give me 1 second so I can try and share the screen again. Something up. Shivangi, can I share the link with you? I don't know why it's not allowing
Oh,
me to
yeah, yeah,
share.
yeah. I
I'll
can.
just share the portfolio. I think you have the, yeah, I could just request you.
Is it in the drive link?
No, I'll just share that. Just give me. I'll share the link with you.
Okay, got it.
two links. So you can open the first one and subsequently the second one after, side by, there are a couple of things.
Okay, just give me a moment, it's loading. Cool, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we can stop. We can just go on up. Yeah, I'll start from here. So actually, just showing you a couple of pieces of work. This was actually to do with a fashion design, fashion brand that we did branding, packaging, the works for it. It was called Ura. Um, Sorry, just give me 1 minute. This. Yeah. So this project was, as I said, it was a lot. We did brand positioning for it and identity design, stationery, packaging, website, copywriting with our copy partners, of course. Um, this entire project actually was about, giving a contemporary twist to closet staples that today's urban woman could actually turn to. We positioned the brand and catered to them as something between various settings, something that makes women rethink what's there in their closets and wardrobes, that it just didn't need more, they needed better. And in an era of fast fashion, we wanted to be a label which was made to last. So again, in this, if you see, we kind of the entire the garments of this collection were actually very kind of muted. They were toned down. So hence we took a really bold route for their branding. If you see, they had custom fins on each of the lettering. The mnemonic that you see on the side was actually a color, different colors, and I'll just ask you to play the video once I go over this. So Ura actually in Sanskrit meant from the heart, which was something the founder had wanted to keep as a name. And to incorporate that as well as something with structure, which the pieces had, we came up with this mnemonic which would keep flipping. Shvangi, there's a folder called videos. If I could just, the other link that I sent you.
Yep.
Yeah, there'll be a file called Ura. Yeah, I'll just let you play that for a minute and explain through it.
Can you hear sound?
I think we couldn't hear the sound, but I'll just explain the gist of it. The entire, if you saw it, kind of, there was a heart, there was a color, and it formed into a mnemonic, and that's what we kind of did for this project. And this would keep playing to explain it. The tagline of it was all heart, like you saw at the end of it. And this would play on their website and social media and various places to explain the brand concept. If I could request you to go back to the portfolio, please.
Yeah.
We can,
Can you see?
yeah, we can go further down. This is how their stationery looked eventually when we kind of finished doing it. We stuck to the neutral color palettes that every wardrobe does have. We can move further down. even the language that you see, for example, on the envelope, pride, power, passion, period, these were things that were actually thought of in formulating a very strong voice for the brand. It's very crisp, clear. There are just, they wanted you to see that these were pieces you could use for the next 10 years and not just one time wear. And it was all about women having strong wardrobe pieces and building those wardrobe pieces. Um, this was a custom box that we did for them, that every order that came with had these things that said ultimately what matters is what's inside, and you'd open the box and it said your wardrobe. The tag that you see on the left side where it says Ura and mindfully crafted always had the name of the piece on the other side, and it wrote 1 out of 100 or 3 out of 100. That means you know how many pieces have been made and you're an owner of one of these pieces.
Right.
We built for them, with every order that you got, we built for them obviously a note from the founders, and that, this was thoughtfully packaged, cared for, thoughtfully designed. And we wanted the customer to kind of open the box and feel like it mattered, that piece, when it was bought. We also built for the consumer a card which opened up, which, if you see at the bottom, a pairing map. So it taught you from morning to evening how to take that piece in various scenarios and places, how to team it up, a little note. So every piece actually had a custom card built for it.
Right. Wow, that's so wonderful.
This was the eventual shoot that kind of took place for the garments. But when you see the tags also, and Shubhangi, if you could just zoom into any one tag, if possible. Um, each category had a tag for it, and it had, if you read how much, what the copy says, a coat is like a warm hug, it stays with you longer than you think. It was almost like you wanted the consumer to even appreciate what was on the tag or keep the tag, with them. And this is what I mean. Collaborations play a huge role in any kind of design. Collaborating with your copywriter, when we were actually branding this, a lot of thought went into what the copy would say, what each piece of packaging, or what the website or social media platforms would actually read and say to the consumer, the tone of language. That was it was a big part of it, and it is a big part of every project, and how you voice it and put it together.
Should I move to the next one?
Yeah, sure.
Just give me a moment. Let
Yeah.
me do a full screen share. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
No? Okay. Now?
Yeah. So again, like you see, these were just some of the tags that were there, how the pieces look. Even, for example, the brand tags for each garment were, we wanted a very raw feel to it, a very hand stitched feel to it, because these are expensive pieces. Um, each piece went with like this cover on it, muslin cover on it, to ensure how to care for your piece. So it wasn't just creating a brand or just creating a box or a wrapping sheet for it. It was actually giving a consumer an end-to-end feeling of buying this expensive product, receiving it, and valuing it for a long period of time. And that was the entire thought behind the project also. So it's really important, actually, if any project one does, to have a holistic picture towards it, rather than just a small aspect towards it. This is eventually how the website looked. We can, I'll actually take you through one more project, which is, I'll ask you to just skip through, and we can go into Tessage rugs.
Okay.
That's the last project. These are just some of the projects that were done. This is again for an interior brand. So Tisage was a project which I can say was the day I started working in the communication design industry till date. Actually, it's been one of the most rewarding projects that I have done. This was actually a carpet brand from Jaipur, a fourth generation carpet brand. And hand knotted, they would do hand knotted rugs, and Tisage meant to weave. So what we actually did for this brand was not just build a brand language or did their branding or packaging, but it was actually their website, art direction, brand film, photography, how their digital campaigns would look, how to make that one brand from a small brand in Jaipur who would only supply to places like restoration hardware and be behind the scenes, to actually build a name for itself in India, internationally as well as the company Tisage and not just a supplier. And
Hmm.
that was the whole idea behind it. The founder was a very nervous person. He never wanted to be publicly seen or spoken about, and it took a lot of convincing and a lot of months to make him understand the merit of putting himself out there and doing, whether it's videos, whether it's writing about him on the website, creating these larger than life campaigns for them, which were then kind of put through various international and Indian magazine, home and interior magazines. So it took a lot of time to understand, to make that client understand, as well as for us to be able to make him feel comfortable doing this and showing the merit in it, which is why it was so rewarding. I'll let you move forward with the slides. So this is how initially what it looked like. So if you see the mnemonic on top, it's actually how a rug is knotted. It's an old knot that's done. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, it had to have a very premium feel to it, hence the blues and the golds that came forward with it. If you look at the envelope, what we actually did was we took a lot of patterns from their rugs. You see one on the side, that's one of their rugs that they've hand knotted over 2 years. And took those patterns and things from their CAD drawings and built them into our stationery and packaging. So even if you see those little covers at the bottom, which are knotted, those little bags, those are all designs from their rugs that we took forward, and then we digitized them into their envelopes, into their letterheads, their bags, their stickering. You can move forward. This was one of the first campaigns we did for them, which was in a fort called Kuchaman in Jaipur. It was a very interesting campaign. We had very few rugs, and we had to build, you know, an entire direction around this, and it was all about how intertwining and knotting, and it was has is in rugs as well as people, and the comparison and the parities towards that. And that's what we eventually did with this campaign. Can move forward. These were some of the shots. So what we actually did was, with this campaign, we actually built a website for them, a custom website, which is where it actually stemmed from initially. That if you have a website, you have to have a presence. You don't have to sell through it, but you have to have a presence, because in today's day and age, everyone either Google's your website, now Instagrams you basically. So these, you have to be present there, even if you're not selling. Whether you tell a story through it, whether, which is my next point that I'll come to. So actually, the campaign was built out of, hey, listen, we need imagery, we need to do this campaign, and then we built a concept around the campaign, which took several months, getting people on board to shoot it, a stylist, a photographer, finding a location, the right model, um, you know, um, uh, all of it. We carried carpets up a fort. There were 25 people carrying carpets in the dead of summer up on a fort to be able to take such beautiful shots. I'll just let you move forward. This is how their website looked. If you can move one slide forward. And eventually, how the entire website came together. So it actually just spoke about where it started from Kapoor carpets, what it used to be, and what it became Tesage, and talked about the collections and to know more because it was a bespoke brand, it was a luxury brand. We didn't want to sell anything through it, so we gave a number and people could get in touch with it, touch with them, etc. We can move forward. Their social media was a big challenge actually. It was not about actually just talking about carpets, because how much can you talk about rugs and carpets and how they're made, and have the images of their rugs. Nobody wants to see that. After a point you get saturated and bored. The whole idea was to almost build like a digital museum of sorts for them. So actually what we did was things, arts, artists, all of it inspired from around the world. We spoke about that. We actually spoke about, we took a theme every month, and we spoke about those things. Initially, there was no concept to all the rugs that were created. So how do you build a concept backwards was where the challenge lay. When we did this first, it took a lot of time to convince and put this out there, and the response was amazing because people were just reading and enjoying the content. It wasn't anything to do with, hey, listen, buy my product, which Instagram is today, unfortunately, or fortunately. But it was more about just enjoying art through a digital platform. And that's what we managed to do. And we got great responses. And eventually, now Mr. Kapoor's rugs are drawn from from a concept where they weren't initially, and he saw merit in that. So it was extremely rewarding to see how it flipped around. And now today, I keep talking to the founder, and he keeps saying that we did a great thing by all of us getting together and actually convincing him that, hey, listen, there needs to be a story. People want to understand the story behind a product. So yeah, that's where it all started in the case of Desage.
Congratulations. That's really, really fabulous work put together.
Thank you. This was actually our second shoot that we did with them, where we actually got an origami artist to create these patterns inspired from their rugs, and these massive yarn balls, which mimicked what was actually the rug if you see in front. And this was their second shoot that we did for them, almost 6 months after we shot the first one, because the response was so good. And of course, we built the sets from scratch. We went to Jaipur, built massive sets, and shot this. I'll just let you move forward. So even reflecting light, because that was the concept behind this rug, to get that into our image also, and then talking about it eventually on the website and social media, and building that narrative. Um, that's what we did for them. This was the culmination of the starting of all of these things actually. I wouldn't like to say culmination actually, but yeah, the end result, but the beginning of the end result. So Mr. Kapoor, the owner of the brand, would go for a lot of these trade shows. And yes, while your presence is important and how you talk people through it is really important, but what was really really important was actually taking a piece back. Kind of, when you're doing business, how does one remember you? Why do people have visiting cards? They have visiting cards because initially, back in the days, it wasn't digitized, right? People would take back the card, and if a card looked cool or something, you'd keep it, you'd save it. That's how people remember you almost. And this was something that he had just said it like, I want to be able to have them remember me, not just have my name put on their phone. And that's what we did with Impasto, which was their last collection, that we actually built for them. The shots that you see before this, and the entire book was a double-sided open tiny book. I wish I actually had a copy with me. So it opened up into an accordion book, and it talked about what the rugs were, how they were made, what the concept was behind the collection. And if you just move to the next slide, and who they were inspired by, about each rug, what size they were. And this opened, as you opened every layer, it would unfold something new. And that's what the rugs were about, that from every angle you see them, it unfolds something new. The light hits differently and it looks different. So that was the beauty behind the product, and how to translate it into something tactile like a book, is what we went through. So yeah, that was some like two projects that I thought would be interesting to take you guys through.
That's super work, so fabulous. I'm so happy that all the of people online who have joined this webinar are able to see, and I'm able to see. Um, moving back to the conversation, um, so just like piecing it all together, just like trying to put it together for people who have just joined, or just like putting it all together. So you went from fashion to working in fashion to learning a little bit of graphic design to working in graphic design, and then you went again into your education with a fast track course with Shillington. What was that like? Was it different from your traditional education? Like if you were to able to draw comparisons, what was that like?
Um, I think each one serves a different purpose, to be honest. They were both great learning curves. Traditional design education gives you time to explore, question, go deeper into things. At Pearl, I had 4 years to immerse myself into design fundamentals, the history, the context, developing processes much slower pace, for example. That allowed time for experimentation, that allowed time for you to really be like, okay, this is not working, I'll go back to the drawing board kind of, experience. The fast track course, which was Shillington, which was a 4 month crash course of someone who would study 4 years in an undergrad course of communication design, is what I did in 4 months. You have to be committed to do that if you want to get the most out of it. Honestly speaking, it's different for different people. For me, it was like, hey, listen, I need this education in a faster way, and this is the career path I want to take. So I really put my heart and soul into understanding and learning what it was. It was the great thing about a fast track course is it teaches you all the really important things. It teaches you practical industry oriented things, which is really really important in the long run actually. It's real world application, so every project that you also do is very very it's connected to something happening in the real world and solving for it, which is a very good way of learning, because eventually you're going to be thrown into it. So it's a nice way to actually approach projects and kind of deal with it. It puts you in a little time slot, which is great because in the real world, time is money. And you will be thrown into situations where overnight you have to produce things, but it also has to make extreme amount of sense. So I think that way, a fast track course like what I did at Shillington was a phenomenal experience for me. It really threw me into the deep end, but I gained a lot from it. I do feel like both are great to have. If you get both, why not? Of course, fast track courses you can, kind of keep doing and taking over many many years. Like you're never too old to do something or learn something. So that's the great part of it. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. There's so many courses now you can do. So 100%, I would recommend both. So yeah.
So so everything comes with a terms and conditions apply for someone who does not have the time to do a 3 4 year design degree and wants to do a fast track course. What is it that they should be mindful of? Uh, what has your experience been like in that area?
um a lot of self discipline. That's one. Because if you really want to learn, you really have to put in that time, effort, energy, and get as much out of the opportunity that you have. And that's in any scenario, be it a course or be it in when you're working. The other thing is curiosity. if your curiosity dies while you're learning, you will not take in anything. I think those are the two key things I would say you should always have with you. There are a lot of resources out there for short-term courses, online programs, mentorships. Like, it's not just about what you're studying, honestly speaking. You may be learning something and that's great, but if the course is not teaching you that, that doesn't mean you should not explore it. Because somewhere or the other it will tie in. They Shorter courses, actually they have less time, but they teach you how to uh, think like a designer, like in the sense that the why behind it, it teaches you very quickly that one, how to turn around things very very fast, and two, the why. Okay, fine, you're coming straight to the why. You're not spending that 3 4 months thinking, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, and then coming to the why. You're straight up put in that problem solving space, which is a great thing. So yeah, and that's about it.
And then after your short-term course, which LinkedIn, you sort of moved into the freelancing space. So how did that start? Why did, like, what motivated you to just like start working independently? Did you always imagine yourself to be in that space? What was that journey like?
I actually never thought I'd freelance. It was very random and out of the blue. I had reached a burnout phase where I was like, I want to take a break, because I had, since my early days in college till like my late 20s, I've been working nonstop. And I was like, I've never taken a break in between jobs. I've never, apart from the few months that I went to study, I never really just chilled. I was also getting married at that time. So I thought, okay, perfect opportunity. I'll take a couple of months off and then I'll look for another job. Uh, but literally in like 20 days of me not do, first 20 days were great, and then I was like, oh no, I need to do something, because I'm someone who can't sit still. So I kind of missed it. I wanted to do something, and weirdly enough, I worked with Diva restaurants very closely in my previous organization, built a very good bond, had redone all their packaging, social media, art direction for their shoots, FMCG labels. So I shared a very good working relationship with them. And uh, randomly, I got a call one day saying, hey, listen, we're in Diwali season, and the agency doesn't have much time, but do you have time? Can our brand aesthetic, we know you're not working with them anymore, and if it's not a conflict of interest, can you do we want to create a couple of Diwali boxes, and design hampers and menus, and can you help with that? So I took that on as a project, honestly, without thinking anything. And it was really, really loved by Ritu Dania, who's the brand's everything, ethos, and founder. And she absolutely loved it. And weirdly enough, the CEO of Diva Restaurants was also getting married that year. And he's like, hey, listen, I like working with you. You're easy to like communicate to. You understand me as a human. Will you do my wedding card? Like, sure. He's like, have you ever done a wedding card? I said, yeah, I've done my own wedding card. I've done a few others. Showed him a couple of my projects and work. And yeah, I did that. And I probably got some 8 inquiries after the wedding, because I did end to end, not just the wedding card. I did everything around the wedding paraphernalia, whether it was stationery, whether it was stickers for their food boxes, a lot of things. And I got about 8 inquiries after, and it that's how it just happened very organically and naturally, that it so happened, and I kept doing projects after that. My friends kind of in the industry knew that I was freelancing for a little bit, and I was enjoying it. I was getting to choose my time, my projects. So it was great. Festive season was great, and then when you hit the summer, it was a little bit of a lull, but it taught me a lot. It taught me that you have to kind of, freelance is not just about getting to choose the kind of work you want to do and produce it, but it's also about kind of figuring out what the bandwidth is, the balance is through the year. So some months will be great, whereas some months will be a complete lull. but you have to figure out in those months which are really really great how many projects you need to do to be able to balance out the entire year, how to kind of do your pricing. So that's something I really really struggled with. I'm very terrible with asking people for money, even though I will do a lot of work for them. And that's something I think a lot of designers generally struggle with, how to kind of work out how much something should cost. For example, whether it is okay to charge this much, is it okay not to charge this much. So I did a lot of I spoke to a lot of random people. I reached out very, hey, listen, I'm freelancing. Could you help me? I really like your work, even if they didn't know me. Kind of understood what their pricing was like, kind of saw what my work was like. So the first couple of projects I took, I was paid very poorly, because I thought, like, no, I just want to get a foot in the door. But then I realized that, hey, listen, no, okay, they really want you to, as much as you want them, they want you also. So that it took almost 4 or 5 months to kind of figure out a costing or a pricing for certain things. And also kind of the business aspect of it, where I mentioned that how to build a contract, for example, a simple contract, not something too crazy, but just getting certain things like, what is the scope of the project? How many changes will there be? How many iterations will there be? Will there be charges attached to it? Also learning how to be very flexible. So design is one thing that is very subjective. I may like something, you may not like something. And it's your job as the person designing to convince that person why there's merit in that. But also there will be a lot of times where there'll be a lot of pushback. And even if you've gone over a certain number of changes, for example, of course you need to know where to draw the line. But there also has to be a little bit of a, okay, no worries, I think you should go with this, but I'll show you one more iteration and tell me what you think about it your way. And then kind of talking them through it will always hold you in good stead. They will always come back to you because they understand that you are willing to give them what they want, and as well as be able to convince them for what you think is better. So I think that's something that comes with time. And yeah, it holds you in a good place with clients.
Right. There's something that I've also heard that many sort of freelancers also struggle with figuring out the pricing and the contract, but
Yeah.
also going solo and not having a job, you sort of move away from a routine. So self-discipline becomes very, very important. Did you
Right.
also face something of that sort?
Oh, 100%. The first couple of months, I would just not have a routine at all. And it was terrible until that self realization kicked in. And then one was like, hey, listen, it cannot work that way. So I think set discipline really, really, it really, I had to build a routine every day. I eventually, when it kicked in, it took me almost 4 months to convince myself to remake my portfolio. And it is every designer's worst nightmare because you have all the work, but you have to put it in to be able to sell yourself to someone else and convince someone else that they should hire you or they should work with you. It took me 4 months, and I kept saying, no, it'll take me 2, 3 months to make my portfolio. It took me literally 10 days to finish it. And it was just about getting there, sitting and finishing it off. Yeah, there I would struggle with it initially, but then when I realized what it was, I would get ready every day. I would set myself a time that, hey, listen, from this time to this time I will work, from this time to this time I'll not work. If I'm working 5 days a week, I get 2 days off. If I'm working at night, then I take the next day off. So there's certain rules you have to make for yourself. And only you know when you're freelancing. It's a very lonely place to be because someone who thrives in a collaborative environment, which was me, it was I didn't enjoy it as much in that aspect because it's just you sitting in a room and creating. But at the same time, the good part is that you're doing everything you love and there's no one to tell you otherwise, and you choose your time, your payment, all of that. Those are the perks of freelancing, I would say.
Cool. So you went from freelancing to designing now for Nicobar. What does that look like? Do you want a little bit talk about that? What is it that you do there, and what kind of role are you involved in?
Yeah. So what I do for Nicobar is actually I head their visual design team. I'm the associate head. So essentially everything that you see consumer facing, which is how their campaigns look, for example, the art direction or the thought behind it, conceptualizing those concepts, kind of building together that team to be able to shoot it, whether it's packaging, whether it's in-store experiences, whether you see their website in terms of every time a collection drops, what their homepage looks like, or what their collection page might look like, in terms of the illustrations or the banners that you see. Um, that's what essentially me and my team do for Nicobar. All their marketing, this thing. So all the 100 spamming newsletters that any one of you have subscribed to, that is what we do. So um, yeah, so and I lead a team of 7 of us, and yeah, it's a very high pressured environment, but it's a fantastic brand to be associated with. It's growing very, very rapidly. We're on our 24th store in India, or looking to open internationally this year. So it's very exciting to be growing with a brand which is loved by so many people. Anyone you tell, oh, you're working with Nicobar, they're like, wow, so cool. I mean, it seems cool, but it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of long nights and long hours. But yeah, it's different to what I was doing previously. Like now, it's more the managing aspect and teaching aspect in the role. Um, it's also a lot of video content that's being consumed by people. So a lot of thinking towards that, a lot of experimentations with how people consume content, be it a website, be it social media, be it advertisements. Having to understand numbers from the finance team, and actually understanding how design um, is has to back those numbers. Like if a certain design, for example, a certain newsletter that's being designed is not giving you enough click rates or not producing enough revenue from that newsletter, what's gone wrong in it, how to change it, how to make it exciting for a consumer. So it's a very different way of looking at design. It's a very yeah uh, how do I put it, product driven, brand driven way of looking at design. The freedom is a lot lesser in this, because everything is backed by a number. And unfortunately, there are a lot of things that you have to circle back to. It may look nice, but may not work for whatever reason the algorithm says. So yeah, it's a lot of problem solving, design solving in that sense that one does.
Right. So this may be a digression, and maybe I have not told you about this question, but this question has just come to my mind, which is, so now you've worked with a brand, now you've also worked as an independent designer or like as a freelancer, and you've also worked uh, with an agency. What sort of difference is there in all three of these systems? What did you enjoy and what did you not enjoy? And what were your learnings like from these three different roles that you took on?
So all three are really, really different from each other. I'll work it backwards. Nicobar, which is brand oriented. Any brand you work for, there is a certain language and ethos that you have to follow, and there will be a lot of limitations to it. Everything is backed by a number, like I told you. And the challenge is actually to work within those limitations, to work within the opposite. You're not really thinking to problem solve for how do I say it, for a brand. Really, the brand exists, and you are um, kind of building that experience. So that's what it is like working with a brand. What the perks are, you get good discounts. I'm kidding, but you the perks are actually, it'll teach you a very different side of design. Sometimes it can be very slow, sometimes it'll be extremely fast paced. So you will work according to the season. So, for example, if all brands have gone on sale and you're going on sale, something as small as the Nicobar sale is going to happen. We have to change the website every single day, and see, and it's really time, like a time crunch. So, for example, if click rates aren't good on your website on a particular day, what is not worked, you'll go back to the drawing board and quickly fix that. So it's a very, you have to problem solve immediately on. So that's what comes with working for a brand. Working in an agency, it's again a high pressure. I was fortunate enough to work in a small agency that grew. If you work with the likes of Gilvia, Wyden and Kennedy, bigger international agencies, there is a very set process. You get there's a lot of work that happens. There are a lot of people involved. You have specific teams for copy, you have specific teams for art direction, specific teams for account managers. So everything is very systematic, yet collaborative. You get that exposure of seeing what's happening internationally and then trying to produce it for India, which is great exposure. Um, in terms of working for a smaller agency or a boutique agency, you will get to do everything. The learning is massive. I would highly recommend for any individual who is starting their career at some point to work for an agency, because that will teach you everything. When I mean everything, like, you will some days be like, this copy is not working, I think this copy is better, and go to your copywriter and jam with them on that. You will go to a dabba wala and be like, hey, listen, this dabba is not fixed, and find 10 solutions to the dabba and the material that you're doing. So you will work in every aspect of it, which is incredible. It's great. It's a great learning curve. Um, and then freelance is great. You get to demand what price you want, you get to demand what time you want to work, you get to choose the projects you want to. The only thing with freelance is you have to be extremely motivated to run a business. You have to have that mindset to be able to differentiate what will work for the business, that in leaner periods, like I mentioned earlier, what can you do, how to build that aspect of it as well, the financial aspect of it, the company in general. So you're not just looking at, you're building the product or the service really, you're also having to market yourself, you're having to kind of put yourself out there, you have to look at the business aspect of it also. So it's everything in one. It takes a lot to build a brand. It does not come overnight, whether it's a service or a product. So yeah, that's the difference and the challenge there. So each one actually comes with its sets of perks and challenges, and it's exciting. Explore whatever. I would tell every person in design to go ahead and explore all of these. We're lucky enough and fortunate that today the design industry is intermingling with, so it's not just fashion designers are curating events today, whereas design house like Nicobar does house and home products, jewelry, apparel, all of it together. So you get various aspects to deal with. So yeah, we're living in a fortunate time where everything design wise is intermingling. So it's really nice.
So, some part of my next question you've already covered. What is it that you would recommend for aspiring designers? What would be your advice for them?
Oh God, I feel really old suddenly, but um, I think I said this earlier also, stay curious. Don't rush the process in terms of, you will make a lot of mistakes. It's okay, because that's how you learn. Be very sincere to your work. Uh, Not understanding, ask questions, whether small, big, whatever. That is the most important thing. And wherever you find the person who is ready to teach you, learn from them, because it will just be incredible. I have done that all my life, and I've really been fortunate to find good people to be able to mentor me and like build my career for me alongside, like, help me in my journey. So I think these are things I would definitely tell them. Um, it's not, design is really not just about knowing the right tools or the trends, for example. It's how you think, how you observe around you, how you're solving the problems creatively, essentially. So yeah, be open to taking feedback, because a lot will come your way. You will not like, 99% of the time you will not like the feedback that comes, but don't take it in your stride and just keep doing, you'll keep exploring, your work will only get better. So yeah. I think that's about the advice I have. And also, I think in terms of one thing I'd say about a skill set in communication design or graphic design, um, yeah, you may know the tools, like get comfortable with, certain tools, certain softwares, like they're important. But find the time to every 2 weeks be able to see a video online and be able to teach yourself something new. Softwares, especially with AI coming in, possibilities are, there is no limit to the possibilities that are there. It's a very big playing field. Photoshop, for example, no matter how much you study it, there will be a new tool, and there will be a new thing, and you will learn how to do the same thing in three different ways. So, seeing tutorials, even if it's a 10-minute tutorial online, it'll just add to your learning. It doesn't have to be just doing a course every 2 3 years or something. Of course, that builds a foundation, but this kind of learning is great. Like, that's something I would definitely advise everyone.
And what's next for you? What are you looking forward to? What are you exploring? What are you learning? What are you experimenting with right now?
So, honestly speaking, in the long run, my 5-year plan is to be able to start my own creative practice again. I'm still doing it part time, but I want to do it in a full time space. I think I want to kind of take random pointed pen, calligraphy classes and get back to doing watercolors. And these are things I really, really want to like go back into doing, because these things actually build a massive foundation for when you're designing a skill set which is hand done versus and digitized together is like the best amalgamation of design. So yeah, I definitely want to do that. Currently I'm doing a very different aspect of design, which is more video content related, doing a lot of art direction, planning for those art directions and creative concepts, which I used to do earlier as well, but it's more focused on that. So it's a very different medium, actually building films. Recently, if you guys go to the Nicobar page, we launched our Lucknow store and we did a massive film and a campaign for that. So end to end, conceptualizing it, building it, producing it, kind of working towards that, which is a new phase. So yeah, I think it's interesting. So
Right. And on to my last question. With that, I will open the floor to the participants to ask any question. If you have any question, you can put it in the Q&A box. But my last question is, what resources sort of helped you learn and grow as a designer outside of your formal education? Do you have any sort of recommendations to make?
yeah. So I think, like I said, upskilling with these smaller tutorials is great. Like, of course, apart from doing courses like what And is offering, or a full-time college course in design, these are smaller things that I will highly recommend, like I mentioned earlier. Also, kind of just following creative studios across the world. Instagram is a massive platform, and just kind of going through them. One of the things that I did very early on in life for my own self, which I've kind of reduced doing now, is I built a sheet where I would actually have all the design designers I would like, or creative studios I would like their work, whether it was packaging oriented, whether it was, creative concepts, art direction. I would actually build a roster of them and keep them. I think it's a great thing to have, because when you're designing sometimes and you're stuck somewhere and you know that there is a um, design house or a creative agency that is very, like, doing that kind of work, it's great to look back at their work and be like, what are they doing right? And kind of understand that. That's something I would highly recommend. Do that for yourselves and share that with people. Like, collaborate with as many people as possible. You will always learn something new from them, and you will always gain something, in return it's a dual process. It'll always better your work. So that's one more thing. And yeah, I think the last thing I would say in a very when if you are studying communication design, I said this earlier, in the industry, time is money. Learn your shortcuts. They will There should be a point where when I was actually studying communication design in New York, there was a time where we weren't allowed to enter our classroom if we didn't know the shortcut keys on for all three softwares. That's InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop. And that literally, when you're working, because it's muscle memory, if you train your mind to learn those early on, you will not have to look down at your keyboard. You will be so quick. You will do 10 iterations of the same thing in half the time is what you take to like use your mouse and then go to the toolbar and then take it out. That is, I would say, one tip I would recommend for every designer. Learn it. It'll be very beneficial for you in the long run.
Okay, great. So we are inviting questions now. If you have a question, you can put it in the Q&A box so that we can sort of answer it systematically. But thank you so much, Sanjana, for doing this with us and sharing your journey with us. I also have your resources sheet, so I will definitely share that with everyone over email.
Thank you, Shivangi, for having me. It's been really interesting and really lovely speaking to you.
So we have questions. Gitanjali is asking, is the course called Shillington or Chillington? Would you know if they're also offering interior designing modules?
It is Shillington with an S, not a C. And they have a website. You can go online and check. In my time, there weren't any interior design courses. So I'm not really sure about that. But they, I think, specialize in communication design, if I'm not wrong.
Gitanjali, at and you will definitely find interior design courses. So I'll be a little out there and just like plug that in. So please reach out to us, or I will have our counseling team definitely reach out to you. Okay, great. Thanks. Do we have any more questions? Let's give our audience like 2 minutes so that
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
if they have any question that they can put it in the Q&A box. Okay, I will go ahead and maybe ask my question then.
Sure.
So I usually treat these sessions as very self-indulgent and like I really like having these master classes and it is really very, very like a session or an evening that I look forward to. And a question that I really love asking people is like if in the whole entire universe there are no constraints and if you were to redesign something as small as a safety pin and as big as maybe Delhi Metro railway system, what would you redesign?
Oh, wow. That's a really hard question. Uh, Oh my God, Shivangi, you've asked me a very tough question. I really had to think about this. That there are too many things. Uh, I would actually redesign the Stanley Cup. I think it is just ridiculously heavy from what I can think of because I keep seeing people hold that humongous thing, and I think it's just it's bizarre. That design just irritates me. But yeah, that's
Somebody approved it and it's now in circulation.
but yeah, from the top of my head, a Stanley Cup.
Shreya is asking, what course would you recommend for someone who wants to just pursue design as a passion project only?
Oh my God, do any of the courses and is offering. I think they're really, really holistic. I've gone through the module itself. It doesn't have to be fashion or graphics or interiors, whatever. The only thing is that uh what happens is they are, you won't have a holistic course on design in general. You will always have it branched out as interiors or this thing. So pick up something that you really enjoy. If you enjoy doing interiors, then pick something like that. If you enjoy doing clothes, do a styling course. There will be specifications. There's no, unfortunately, overall design course, which I'm sure and will start soon. That usually happens in any design course actually that you pick up. The first couple of classes are foundation design, or even in a full-time course in design, your first year is foundation design. Um, so yeah, I'd also say I hate the concept. I mean, as much it's a love-hate relationship between AI, because everyone fears that they will take over your jobs, but they're actually assisting you and helping you. But AI is actually really wonderful to just kind of explore yourself. Kind of put some cues in there, see what it spits up. Like, could be interesting to explore. So yeah, Sora is one thing for design that now we're kind of playing around with, and trying to open up. So yeah, that's something that you can look into.
Great. So Shiva is asking, how do you overcome a mental creative block?
Oh, get up and go for a walk. Like, if it's not happening in that moment, it's likely not to happen for a couple of maybe minutes, hours, I don't know. Maybe when you're in the shower, randomly an idea will strike you. Move away from it, remove yourself from it, do something else when there's a creative block. Because if you're trying to solve something that's not getting solved, it's unlikely that in that moment it's going to happen. Um, Completely remove yourself from it, and just think about something else, watch a show just for some time. If it's within a time period that you really have to solve something and submit it somewhere, bounce it off a friend or a colleague. That always helps. Be like, hey, listen, I'm thinking this, but I'm not enjoying it. What do you think? And weirdly enough, and it doesn't have to be someone who understands design or not. It can randomly be even a parent or a sibling, someone in the house, and they will have a completely different perspective. And you'll be like, it'll be like an aha moment, like so yeah, those are two things I generally do when I have to do it, and if I'm in a creative block.
I hope that answers your questions, Shiva. Sushmita is asking, thank you for conducting this masterclass.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Shweta.
Sushmita. Nowadays, fashion design courses also includes learning digital designs. So I would like to know whether a separate discipline called fashion communication is necessary to get into the market of branding and packaging, etc.
So fashion communication is actually not for branding and packaging. Fashion communication is more if you want to work with a lot of magazines, digital fashion magazines. Essentially, that's what fashion communication helps with. Bloggers, kind of doing blogs. Bloggers, in that sense, I don't mean what you see like fashion bloggers on Instagram. I mean who write blogs. That's what fashion communication is about. If you're looking into getting into specifically branding and packaging, communication design or graphic design is what you essentially need to study. That's if you want to study also. Today, design actually is such a vast and open field that you really don't. The good thing about design is, and the bad thing, that you don't really need to have a particular degree. Yes, of course, to get a job in the realistic world, they ask if you had a design background. But if you're talented enough, or if you train yourself enough, if your work is good enough, you will get that opportunity. Whether it's, for example, you studied fashion and you have a knack for being able to design boxes, and you design a box for someone. um Nobody cares what the background is. Essentially, in the real world, they care about what your talent is and how you understand what is at hand and what is the problem that needs to be solved in design. So yeah, that's what I would say. And I'm really happy to know that fashion courses are now teaching digital designs, because during my time it wasn't there and it was very difficult. Everything was hand drawn and it was very time consuming. So that's a very wonderful thing to know.
I hope that answers your questions, Sushmita. We have another question. Tayyab is asking, hi, just a quick questions. What would you advise someone who's starting a career in design? How would someone grow in this field, climb up the corporate ladder in design field to even starting their own agency?
I mentioned this throughout my conversation. I think just being able to, one, just learn as much as you can. Yes, the monetary aspect would be important at some phase, but till the time when you're much younger, try and work with places where you will be able to do a lot of things. So, like I mentioned, an agency that will teach you a lot. It'll give you a lot of practical knowledge. It'll give you a lot of skill sets that you need. You know, in terms of growing in the field, like I said, it's really important to keep yourself updated with what's happening in the world around you. So AI is now introduced. It's a huge open field for AI, and I have friends who are kind of being able to toggle. If they're not designers, and they're being able to toggle and putting prompts and being able to get results through it, which is wonderful to see. But yes, a human touch is needed. If you know the skill and you give it a prompt, it's better. Obviously, you get a better result. Even doing those smaller tutorials, like I said, keeping yourself updated with the softwares, keeping yourself updated with the tools and practicality. Kind of attending these master classes with people who have learned, have 10, 15 years of experience, can share their experience with you. I think, yeah, just these things will help you kind of do that, and just be extremely sincere about your work. Take feedback. uh, that'll help you climb the corporate ladder. And starting your own agency, whether it's right in the beginning or towards the end, every experience will just teach you as you go along. So
Thanks for your question, Tayyab. We hope that answers it. We have another question from Shiva. Shiva is asking how to improve critical thinking and your problem solving ability.
So one thing that I always do is mind map. That's something I learned very early on. So when you're, let's say, if a project is about you're designing for a restaurant, upscale restaurant, which is serving a certain kind of cuisine or a food. Actually kind of understanding one from the client, what their vision is, speaking a lot to them, kind of categorizing what the brand is, doing your own research, associating words to it, associating feelings to it, mind mapping your entire concept always helps. Put a pen to a piece of paper, don't type it out. Associations, talking to people who are doing that. These are things that I feel like are very important for critical thinking. Doing your research, like, if for example, if you're building a collection, if I was still in the fashion field, any collection one built, you had to do research. There was an inspiration where it came from. Whether it was Angarkhas you were building from the Mughal era, so researching about them, the time they were built, the time they came into the picture, what's so special about them, how they were crafted, modernizing it, seeing it in the modern day world, comparing the two. So a lot of research and reading will strengthen that. And it will change project to project. So that is one thing I would recommend.
Cool. I think we've answered all the questions today, and we've also reached the end of this session. So thank you so much for doing this for us, Sanjana. Thank you for taking out your time and just like sharing your journey and having like a very honest and candid conversation with us about everything that you have sort of seen and what is next for you. So thank you for doing that for us. I thank also all the participants who stuck around with us till the end of this session. Um, so yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here and being able to talk to everyone and take them through my journey. And I'm a little less nervous now. So it was a first for me also, and it felt great. It felt really nice to be able to share that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Anjana. Bye. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.